most adult victims aren't very much concerned with whether this law passes or not. They're concerned about the process of healing.
Local survivors of child sex abuse say it's time to protect children over pedophiles. Good evening, I'm Jeff Rusak. Liz is off tonight. Survivors of child sex abuse are pushing to get legislation passed that would bring reform to the state's statute of limitation laws. Supporters of the Child Victims Act say the change would allow Michael Whalen, a survivor of child sex abuse in the Buffalo diocese, to take legal action against a priest who confessed in the Buffalo News to abusing dozens of teenage boys in the 1970s and 80s. But because of New York's state statute of limitations, the Reverend cannot face any criminal charges. It's a story the I-Team has been following from the beginning. More tonight from News 7 Eyewitness News reporter Chris DiMaria.
One of the steps in the process of healing is being able to speak about it.
Tom Travers is a sexual abuse survivor. He says he was abused at Nativity Church in Orchard Park. On the University at Buffalo's South Campus, he joined a panel meeting to discuss the Child Victims Act, a Senate bill that would allow authorities to bring abusers to justice, no matter how long ago an attack occurred.
The Child Victims Act is not about gaining money. It's about protecting children, and it's about putting things in place so that survivors have time to be able to process the trauma they experience as children.
The Child Victims Act has four main parts. First, it would increase the criminal and civil statute of limitations. Right now, after a victim of childhood sex abuse turns 23, they can no longer press charges against their attacker. Advocates at today's meeting say that puts time on the attacker's side and forces victims to come forward before they're ready. Also, the act would remove special protections for institutions that have kept abusers from being held accountable. And lastly, it would create a one-year look-back period. This means if a survivor comes forward, the year they were abused would be investigated in its entirety to uncover exactly what happened.
We have a very simple fix. Extend the statute of limitations.
State Senator Tim Kennedy is co-sponsoring the bill. He says not allowing survivors to come forward after they've turned 23 is effectively letting abusers run free.
Today, they are a hidden enemy to our children. There are abusers that have gone on to abuse other victims because the statute of limitations in New York State is at age 23, and they've never been held to account. They've never been brought to justice.
Travers says it takes years, even decades, for any survivor to come to terms with their experience. And by extending the statute of limitations, they would be given the time they need and still be able to bring abusers to justice. Chris DiMaria, 7 Eyewitness News.